Have you ever noticed how just one small habit, something you barely pay attention to, can quietly shape your emotions, your thoughts, even your peace of mind, and you don't even realize it's happening? Think about it. How many times have you caught yourself feeling anxious, restless, or drained without really knowing why? You tell yourself that's just how life is. Stress is normal, but what if I told you? It might not be life that's overwhelming you, it might be a habit. For years, I lived with anxiety that felt like a shadow I couldn't escape. I tried everything to outrun it. I read the books. I practiced meditation. I distracted myself with endless activities. I even tried to force my way through it with sheer willpower. And yet, the anxiety was always there lurking, waiting, weighing me down. But then, something unexpected happened. My turning point didn't come from some complicated strategy or expensive program. It came the day I chose to quit one simple habit. And the result? Almost instantly, I felt lighter. The heaviness of my emotions began to lift. My anxiety softened in a way it never had before. It wasn't magic. It wasn't luck. It was clarity. Now, you might be wondering, what was this habit? How could something so small make such a big difference? That's exactly what I want to share with you today. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the one habit I quit, how it transformed my inner world, and the lessons that came with it. And here's why this matters. Maybe you've been searching for peace in all the wrong place, just like I was. Maybe you've been adding more and more into your life, hoping it will drown out the anxiety. More routines, more hacks, more noise. But what if the answer isn't in adding more? What if it's in letting go? So here's my invitation to you. Stay with me until the very end of this video, because I'm going to share a perspective that might completely shift the way you see your daily habits and your mental health. And who knows, this could be the exact change you've been waiting for. But before we dive in, I want you to pause and reflect for just a moment. What's one habit you have right now that you know isn't serving you? What's one thing you do every day that might be stealing your energy, even if it feels harmless? Keep that in mind as I share my story, because this isn't just about me. This is about you, about us, about the small shifts that can create big breakthroughs in the way we live, feel, and show up every single day. Let's begin. 1. Recognizing the hidden habit. Let me be honest with you. The habit I'm talking about wasn't something obvious like smoking, drinking, or overeating. No, it was far more subtle than that. And that's exactly what made it dangerous. Because the habits that quietly sneak into our daily lives are often the ones that do the most damage without us even noticing. My hidden habit was this: consuming too much negative input. Every single morning, almost like a ritual, I would grab my phone before even stepping out of bed. I'd scroll through the headlines, reading about chaos in the world. I'd jump into social media, comparing myself to people who seemed more successful, more attractive, more together than I ever felt. Post after post, video after video, my mind was drowning in noise before the day had even begun. And here's the truth, it felt normal. Because let's be real, doesn't everybody do that? Don't we all check our phones, scroll for just a few minutes, and tell ourselves it's harmless? But over time, I began to notice the cost. This daily flood of negativity wasn't harmless at all. It was like a slow drip of poison into my mind. It fueled my anxiety. It made me restless. It pulled me into a cycle of constant comparison, constant worrying, constant dissatisfaction. Think about it for a moment. How do you feel after you've scrolled social media for half an hour? Inspired? Fulfilled? Or drained? Envious? Maybe even empty? How do you feel after binge reading the news first thing in the morning? Calm and focused? Or already stressed before your feet even hit the ground? This is the hidden danger. These habits disguise themselves as normal, but they slowly steal our peace. I realized I wasn't starting my day with intention, I was starting it in reaction. Instead of deciding how I wanted to feel, I was letting algorithms, headlines, and strangers on the internet decide for me. And the scary part is it didn't look like a problem from the outside. No one would point at me and say, "That's a destructive habit," but inside, I knew it was eroding me. It's kind of like having a small leak in the roof of your house. At first, you barely notice it. A drip here, a drip there. You tell yourself it's no big deal, but over time, the water seeps in, the wood begins to rot, the foundation starts to weaken. That's what this habit was doing to me, quietly damaging the foundation of my emotional health. And I want to ask you, do you have a habit like this in your life? Something that seems so ordinary that you don't even question it anymore. Maybe it's reaching for your phone before saying good morning to your partner. Maybe it's checking emails the moment you wake up, giving your stress a head start before your coffee even brews. Maybe it's saying yes to things you don't really want to do, just because it's easier than saying no. On the surface, these things look small, but deep down, you know they're costing you something big: your peace, your focus, your joy. I want you to pause for just a second and reflect. What's the one habit in your life that feels normal, but you know it's silently robbing you of your energy and calm? Because here's the truth. Until we recognize these hidden habits, we stay stuck in cycles of anxiety and emotional chaos. We keep wondering why we feel restless, why we feel drained, why life feels heavier than it should. And most of the time, it's not because we're broken. It's because of the patterns we repeat every single day without thinking. This was my wake-up call, and recognizing this hidden habit was the first step toward real change. 2. The moment of awareness. I will never forget the moment it finally hit me. It was an ordinary morning, nothing dramatic. The alarm went off, and like always, before I even got out of bed, before I even brushed my teeth, I reached for my phone. Sound familiar? I thought it would just be a quick check, just 2 minutes. But we all know how that goes. The second my screen lit up, it was like opening a floodgate. Bad news headlines screaming at me. Political arguments flooding my feed. Pictures of other people's perfect lives flashing before my eyes. And within just a few minutes, my mind felt heavy. My chest was tight. My thoughts were racing. I hadn't even stood up from bed, and already I was anxious, irritated, and overwhelmed. Has that ever happened to you? You wake up with a chance for peace, a fresh start, but within minutes, your mood is hijacked by negativity. That morning, I had to stop and ask myself a hard question. Why am I doing this to myself? Why am I willingly pouring mental poison into my brain before I've even taken my first breath of fresh air? It was like I had been giving my peace away voluntarily single morning. No one forced me. No one demanded it. I was the one choosing chaos over calm. And that realization was my wake-up call. See, sometimes the most powerful turning points in life don't come from dramatic events. They come in the quiet moments when you finally notice the truth about your patterns. That day, I noticed mine. I realized that if I truly wanted peace, if I truly wanted to manage my emotions, I couldn't keep starting my mornings in a storm. Because how you start your day often sets the tone for the entire day. And I had been starting mine in mental chaos. Think about it. If the very first thing you consume is conflict, comparison, and catastrophe, how can you expect to feel calm, confident, or focused later on? If the first input you give your brain is negativity, why would you expect positivity to be the output? That was the moment I finally asked myself, what would happen if I stopped? What would my life look like if I stopped feeding myself fear and noise the moment I woke up? Let me put this question to you. What's the first thing you do when you wake up? Do you breathe deeply, stretch, maybe give thanks for another day? Or do you grab your phone and let the outside world dictate your state of mind before you've even created space for your own? Be honest, because I had to be brutally honest with myself that morning. And here's what I discovered. The habits we allow in those first few moments of the day are some of the most powerful. They either anchor us or they throw us off balance. They either set us free or they trap us in the same cycles we've been trying to escape. That single morning, staring at my phone, feeling my anxiety rising before the sun was even up, I realized something had to change. I realized that peace is not just about what we add to our lives like meditation or exercise, it's also about what we remove. I had been trying to meditate while still drowning in negativity. I had been trying to find gratitude while still comparing myself to strangers online. It was like trying to clean a window while smearing more dirt on it at the same time. That morning was my first real moment of awareness. I finally saw the problem for what it was. And you know what? Awareness is powerful, because once you see the truth, you can't unsee it. Once you recognize that something is harming you, you can't keep pretending it's harmless. So, let me ask you, what's your wake-up call moment? Have you had one yet? Or are you still waiting for it? Maybe for you, it's not the phone. Maybe it's the way you talk to yourself in the mirror each morning. Maybe it's the way you dive straight into work emails before you've even had breakfast. Maybe it's how you replay yesterday's problems instead of opening your heart to today's possibilities. Whatever it is, I want you to know this, that moment of recognition, the moment you finally see the cost of your hidden habits, that's the beginning of freedom. Because once you become aware, you get to make a choice. And that morning, lying in bed with my phone in hand, I made mine. The decision to quit. That morning, after realizing how much chaos I was pouring into my own mind, I made a decision. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't some life or death moment. But in hindsight, it was one of the boldest choices I had ever made. I decided to stop. I decided to stop checking the news and scrolling through social media first thing in the morning. Now, you might think, that's it. That's the big decision, but let me tell you, at times the smallest decisions carry the biggest power. Because let's be honest, how many of us know deep down that something we're doing every day is hurting us, but we keep doing it anyway? We tell ourselves it's not that bad. We convince ourselves I can handle it, but the truth is if it's costing you your peace, it's costing you too much. So instead of reaching for my phone, I chose something different. I gave myself permission to begin my mornings in silence. Sometimes I'd sit quietly with a cup of coffee, just breathing and noticing the warmth in my hands. Other days, I'd open my journal and let my thoughts spill onto the page, releasing the clutter in my mind. It wasn't about being perfect. It wasn't about following some rigid routine. It was simply about creating space for myself. For the world demanded a piece of me. And let me be real with you. At first, it felt strange, almost uncomfortable. My mind was addicted to stimulation. It craved the instant rush of checking notifications, of knowing what was happening out there. There was a part of me that kept saying, what if you're missing something important? What if you fall behind? But I held on. And slowly, something began to shift. The silence that once felt uncomfortable began to feel nourishing. The mornings that once started with noise began to feel peaceful. My thoughts, which used to race from the second I woke up, finally began to slow down. For the first time in years, I felt like I was in charge of how my day began. Not the headlines, not the endless scroll, not the chaos of the outside world. Me. And that was powerful. Because here's what I learned. The way you start your day is often the way you live your day. If you start in chaos, chances are you'll carry that chaos with you. But if you start in calm, you give yourself a chance to carry that calm into everything you do. Think about it. How would your life feel different if the first 30 minutes of your day were just for you? No screens, no noise, just you. Your breath, your thoughts, your peace. Would you feel more grounded, more present, maybe even more grateful? I had spent years believing that my anxiety was something I had to fight all day long. But what I didn't realize is that so much of it came from how I was starting my mornings. By making one small shift, choosing calm over chaos changed the entire rhythm of my life. And I want to challenge you. What decision are you putting off because it feels too small, too simple, too easy? What's one habit you could let go of today that might create more space for peace in your life? It doesn't have to be quitting social media altogether. It could be as simple as delaying it, waiting until after you've centered yourself. It could be choosing to drink your coffee in silence instead of scrolling. It could be writing down 3 things you're grateful for before letting the world in. Remember this: peace doesn't just happen. Peace is chosen. And most of the time, it's chosen in the little moments like the first 5 minutes of your morning. That one decisi ondo stop letting my phone decide how my day would begin wasn't just about mornings. It was about reclaiming ownership of my life. It was about telling myself, I get to choose what fills my mind. I get to choose how I feel. I get to choose me. And if I can do it, so can you. So the question I leave you with is this: tomorrow morning, when you wake up, what will you choose? Chaos or calm? Noise or silence? Reaction or intention? The answer could change everything. 4. The instant improvement. Here's the part that still amazes me. The improvement was almost instant. I didn't have to wait weeks or months to feel a shift. The very first day I chose not to reach for my phone, not to drown myself in news and comparison, I felt it. My anxiety softened. My emotions felt lighter. My mind wasn't being dragged in 100 directions before I had even stepped outside my door. It was like breathing fresh air after being stuck in a crowded room. You know that feeling when your house or your desk is a complete mess? Papers everywhere, clothes on the floor, dishes piling up in the sink. Just being in that space makes you feel heavy, cluttered, stressed. But then you clean it. You put things back in order. Suddenly, the same space feels open, calm, and welcoming. That's exactly what happened in my mind. By letting go of just one toxic habit, I created space. Space for peace. Space for gratitude. Space for focus. My mornings were no longer consumed with noise, and that shift rippled through the rest of my day. And here's what I realized: sometimes we don't need to add more routines, more practices, more self-help strategies. Sometimes the real transformation happens when we simply subtract. Think about it. We live in a world that constantly tells us to do more. More productivity hacks, more morning routines, more apps, more supplements, more. But what if peace doesn't come from adding? What if peace comes from subtracting? What if the breakthrough you're looking for isn't in doing something new, but in stopping something that's quietly hurting you? That was my truth. I had been trying to pile on new habits: meditation, journaling, reading goal, while still clinging to the habit that was poisoning me each morning. No wonder it felt like I wasn't getting anywhere. It's like pouring clean water into a glass while still dripping ink into it at the same time. No matter how much clean water you add, it's still going to be murky until you stop the ink. That's what quitting this habit did for me. And the beauty is, the effect wasn't just mental. I noticed physical changes too. My shoulders felt less tense. My breathing was steadier. I wasn't carrying that tight knot in my chest that had become so familiar. My body was reflecting the calm I was finally allowing into my mind. But here's what's even more powerful. Once I experienced that shift, even just a small taste of peace, I wanted more. It motivated me to keep going, to keep choosing silence over noise, to keep choosing presence over distraction, to keep choosing me over the chaos of the world. And I want to pause here and ask you, can you imagine what it would feel like to have just a little more space in your day? A little more calm, a little more clarity, a little more focus. What would happen if you gave yourself permission to stop feeding one habit that drains you? It doesn't have to be scrolling first thing in the morning. Maybe for you, it's watching the news right before bed. Maybe it's saying yes to commitments you don't actually care about. Maybe it's replaying old mistakes in your head over and over as if punishing yourself will somehow set you free. What if you stopped? Just one habit. What could open up for you? I learned a profound truth. Transformation doesn't always require addition. Sometimes it requires subtraction. Sometimes it's not about asking, "What more should I do?" but rather, "What can I let go of?" And let me tell you, when you remove what's weighing you down, your natural peace, your natural joy, your natural focus, they rise up to the surface. They were always there, just buried under clutter. That's what happened to me. And it can happen for you too. 5. The emotional ripple effect. What surprised me most was that the change didn't just stop with my mornings. It didn't just make those first few hours feel calmer. No, the impact spread into every part of my day, like ripples moving across water after you drop a single stone. I noticed that I was calmer at work. I wasn't snapping at little things that normally would have triggered me. I had more patience with people, more space to actually listen before reacting. And let me ask you, how often do we regret reacting too quickly, saying something out of stress instead of clarity? That one small shift in my mornings started to protect me from those unnecessary regrets. Even in conversations with family and friends, I felt the difference. Instead of carrying hidden tension into the room, I brought a lighter energy. Have you ever walked into a space and immediately felt the heaviness of someone's stress? Or, on the other hand, felt uplifted by their calm? That's what was happening. G was no longer radiating anxiety. I was showing up differently. And here's something that really surprised me, even my sleep improved. See, at night, I used to scroll one last time before bed, telling myself it would help me wind down, but all it really did was fill my head with noise, arguments, bad news. Endless comparison chat stayed with me as I tried to fall asleep. My body was in bed, but my mind was running laps. But once I committed to stepping away from that habit, my nights became quieter. My mind was no longer stuffed with unnecessary information, and because of that, I fell asleep faster. I slept deeper. And when I woke up, I actually felt rested, not drained. It hit me. When you remove one toxic habit, you don't just gain a calmer morning. You gain better days. You gain better nights. You gain better connections. The ripple effect touches everything. And that's something I want you to reflect on. What would your life look like if you didn't carry stress from the moment you wake up into every conversation, every decision, every interaction? What would your relationships look like if you weren't walking around with hidden tension? How much better would you sleep if you stopped feeding your mind with unnecessary noise before bed? Sometimes we underestimate just how interconnected our habits are. We think, "Oh, it's just 5 minutes on my phone. It's just one little thing," but it's never just one little thing. Those minutes shape your mood. Your mood shapes your actions. Your actions shape your relationships. And your relationships shape the quality of your life. That's the power of the ripple effect. And here's the truth. When you let go of one destructive habit, you don't just remove a negative, you create space for positives to grow everywhere else. I began to feel more gratitude during the day. I began to notice small joys I used to overlook: the warmth of sunlight on my skin, the sound of laughter in a conversation, the simple relief of breathing without tension. It was as if removing the noise gave me my senses back. And I'll tell you this, when you start living from a place of calm, people notice. They might not be able to name what's different, but they can feel it. And your energy can inspire them to make changes too. So here's my question to you. What ripple effect could you create in your own life by letting go of one habit that's holding you back? Could it make you a more patient parent, a more present partner, a more focused leader at work? Could it help you not only feel better, but be better for yourself and for the people you love? Because here's the thing, personal growth isn't selfish. When you change, everyone around you benefits. When you heal, your relationships heal. When you choose peace, you bring peace into your home, your workplace, your community. All from one decision. That's the ripple effect. And that's why quitting just one toxic habit can be the start of transformation that reaches far beyond you. 6. The power of small choices. Here's something I've learned that completely changed the way I see personal growth. Transformation doesn't always require big, dramatic moves. Most of us believe that in order to change our lives, we need to do something massive: move to a new city, change careers, sign up for expensive courses, or spend months in therapy. And don't get me wrong, sometimes those big decisions matter. But here's the truth I discovered: more often than not, it's the small, daily choices that carry the greatest power. Let me give you an example. Think about a giant tower of Jenga blocks. It looks stable, strong, unshakable. But what happens if you pull out just one key piece? The whole structure collapses. That's what happened when I quit one toxic habit. By pulling out that single piece, the entire tower of my anxiety began to crumble. And here's the beautiful part: once the old structure fell, I wasn't left in ruins. I had a foundation to rebuild something new, something better. I could construct a life based on peace, presence, and joy instead of fear, noise, and distraction. Sometimes we underestimate how powerful these small choices really are, because in the moment, they don't seem significant. Skipping the morning scroll doesn't feel life-changing. Choosing to breathe deeply for 1 minute instead of reaching for your phone doesn't seem revolutionary. But those tiny decisions, repeated consistently, begin to shift everything. Let me ask you, what small choice are you overlooking right now? Maybe it's as simple as drinking water before coffee. Maybe it's writing down one thing you're grateful for each morning. Maybe it's turning off notifications during dinner so you can actually be present with your loved ones. The world tells us that change requires something extraordinary. But life whispers that it's the ordinary choice repeated day after day that shape who we become. I used to think, if I can't make a big change, then what's the point? But that mindset only kept me stuck. Because waiting for the big change often means never changing at all. When I finally embraced the power of small choices, everything shifted. I realized that every single day is full of opportunities to need doors I can open toward peace, or tiny traps I can fall into that lead to chaos. And here's the thing: you don't need to open every door at once. You just need to open one. That's what makes the Jenga metaphor so powerful. Pulling out one block didn't just remove a piece of the tower, it changed the entire structure. In the same way, quitting one toxic habit doesn't just remove negativity in that one area, it reshapes your whole life. So let me ask you this: what's your Jenga block? What's the one small choice you could make today that might cause the whole tower of stress, anxiety, or distraction to begin collapsing? Don't underestimate the power of subtraction. Don't underestimate the power of choosing something small over and over until it becomes the foundation for something extraordinary. Because here's the deeper truth: every great transformation begins with one small decision. Think about it. A marathon begins with a single step. A book begins with a single sentence. A friendship begins with a single hello. And peace can begin with a single choice. For me, that choice was quitting the morning scroll. For you, it might be something else. But the principle is the same: small choices matter. Small choices build momentum. Small choices create big results. So here's my challenge to you. Don't wait for the perfect moment or the big change. Ask yourself right now, what's one small choice I can make today that my future self will thank me for? Remember, transformation isn't a sudden leap. It's a series of steps. And the first step is always small. 7. A challenge for you. Now, I want to turn this back to you, because this journey isn't just about me, it's about you too. Let me ask you a simple but powerful question. What habit in your life right now is quietly feeding your anxiety or draining your emotional energy? Really think about it. Maybe for you, it's the same as mine: grabbing your phone the second you wake up, flooding your brain with noise before you've even had a chance to breathe. Or maybe it's drinking too much caffeine, pushing your body into overdrive, and then wondering why you can't calm down. Maybe it's something more personal. Maybe you find yourself always saying yes to things you don't really want to, agreeing to commitments, favors, responsibility, and when deep down, your whole heart is screaming no. How often have you exhausted yourself trying to please everyone else while quietly neglecting your own peace? Or maybe it's holding on to a relationship that you know is toxic. You tell yourself, it's not that bad. I can handle it. I don't want to be alone, but deep inside, you know it's draining you, stealing your joy, keeping you from becoming the best version of yourself. And sometimes the habit isn't even about what we do externally, it's about the conversations we have with ourselves. How many times have you looked in the mirror and spoken words of criticism instead of encouragement? How many times have you told yourself, I'm not enough, I'll never change, I'll never be like them? Those words, they're habits too, and they shape your emotions more than you realize. So here's the challenge I want to give you. Imagine, just for a moment, what your life would look like if you quit just one of those habits. Not 10, not 5, just one. What would change after a week? Would you feel a little lighter, a little more energized, a little more at peace? What would change after a month? Would your relationships improve? Would you sleep better? Would you laugh more? And what about a year from now? Can you picture the ripple effect of one decision carried out day after day? Here's the truth. Transformation doesn't always happen in big leaps. It happens in small steps, in daily choices, in the courage to let go of what no longer serves you. So I'm asking you watching this video right now to take this challenge personally. Don't just listen and nod along. Ask yourself, what's one toxic habit I'm ready to release? And when you think you've found the answer, I want you to write it down. Put it somewhere you can see it every day. Because awareness is powerful, but action is where change begins. And don't underestimate yourself. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to fix everything at once. You just need to choose one habit and take the first step. Because here's the secret. Once you let go of one habit, you'll start to build confidence. You'll see the results. You'll feel the change. And that will inspire you to keep going. So let me leave you with this thought. If your future self 1 year from now could sit down with you today, what would they thank you for letting go of? That's your challenge. And I believe in you enough to know you can do it. 8. The deeper lesson. At the heart of everything I've shared with you so far, there's one lesson that stands out above all the rest. It's the deeper truth I had to discover for myself, and I believe it's the same truth you might need to hear today. This is about reclaiming your power. Because let's be honest, anxiety often grows in the places where we feel powerless. It takes root when we believe life is happening to us instead of through us. It feeds on the feeling that we're not in control, that we're just reacting, just surviving, just getting through another day. That's exactly how I felt before. I thought my anxiety was permanent. I thought I was stuck. But the moment I let go of that one toxic habit, I realized something important. Every choice I make is a vote for the life I want. Quitting that habit wasn't just about removing negativity. It was an act of power, a declaration, a statement to myself and to the world. I get to decide how I live. I get to choose peace over chaos. I get to choose clarity over noise. I get to live intentionally, not reactively. And I want you to sit with that for a moment. What would it mean for you to reclaim that same power? Imagine walking into your day knowing that you're not at the mercy of notifications, headlines, or other people's opinions. Imagine feeling that calm confidence that says, I don't need to react to everything. I get to choose what matters. I get to choose what enters my mind and my heart. That's what true freedom looks like. See, so many of us spend our lives trying to control everything on the outside, our jobs, our finances, our relationships, the circumstances of the world. But the real shift happens when we realize the most powerful control is on the inside. It's the control to choose what we allow in, to choose what we focus on, to choose what habits we build or what habits we let go of. And here's the truth. letting go of a toxic habit isn't a sign of weakness. It's one of the strongest things you can do, because it takes courage to stop. It takes courage to say, "This is no longer serving me. I'm ready to live differently." For me, quitting that morning scroll was more than a change in routine. It was proof that I wasn't powerless. Proof that I could draw a line, set a boundary, and protect my peace. And that proof gave me momentum to change other things, too. So let me ask you, what would your life feel like if you began making choices from a place of power instead of fear? What would it look like if every decision, no matter how small, was guided by intention instead of reaction? Maybe it would mean choosing to breathe deeply instead of checking your phone. Maybe it would mean choosing to walk away from negativity instead of engaging with it. Maybe it would mean choosing to give yourself grace instead of judgment. Each of those choices is a declaration. Each is you reclaiming ownership over your mind, your emotions, your life. And here's something I need you to remember. Peace is not passive. Peace is powerful. It's not about escaping life, it's about taking control of it. It's about saying, "I will no longer hand my power to habits, to noise, to chaos. I will own my choices. I will own my peace." That's the deeper lesson I learned. And I believe it's the lesson waiting for you, too. So the next time you feel anxiety creeping in, pause and ask yourself, where can I reclaim my power? What one choice can I make right now that declares I choose peace? Because when you realize you have that power, everything begins to change. And here's what I've realized, my friend. I don't need hundreds of new strategies to fight anxiety. I don't need to buy 10 new books, sign up for endless programs, or chase every new hack that pops up on my feed. What I really needed was courage. The courage to let go of one harmful habit. That single decision, just one, created room for healing. It opened the door for more positive emotions. It gave me the space to build deeper, more meaningful connections with the people I care about. And if it worked for me, it can work for you, too. The message I want you to take away today is simple but powerful. Don't underestimate the power of subtraction. Sometimes letting go is stronger than adding more. Sometimes true freedom doesn't begin with what we do, it begins with what we stop doing. So let me ask you, what's one habit you could release today? Not next month, not after the holidays, not someday, today. Is it the habit of scrolling your phone before you've even taken a breath in the morning? Is it that third cup of coffee that only leaves you more anxious than energized? Is it the way you say yes to everyone else when your heart is screaming no? Or maybe it's the toxic self-talk you've been carrying for years, that voice that tells you you're not enough, that you're falling behind, that you'll never change. Imagine this. If you let go of just one of those habits, how would your life feel in a week, in a month, in a year? Would you feel calmer walking into your day? Would your conversations feel lighter, more genuine? Would you sleep better? Laugh easier? Breathe deeper? See, the truth is, your daily choices shape your destiny. Not the giant leaps, not the once-in-a-lifetime events, but the small, repeated decisions you make every single day. And change doesn't have to be overwhelming. It starts with one choice, one habit, one small step. That's how real transformation begins. This is your journey, no one else's. And the secret I want to leave you with is this: everything you need to create peace, everything you need to reclaim your strength, everything you need to experience joy, it's already inside you. It has been there all along. So today, take back your power. Choose peace. Choose clarity. Choose yourself. Voice softens, then lifts with energy and gratitude. Thank you so much for being here with me. If this message spoke to you, if it stirred something in your heart, I ask you to do two things: share this video with someone who needs it, and carry this question with you into tomorrow. What will I choose to let go of so I can step into a calmer, stronger, more intentional version of myself? And remember this: your peace, your strength, your joy, it all begins with the habits you choose today. Pause, smile, let it land. This is your moment. Take it.